All right, we're back on track. I feel like I'm in Hollywood, all these producers back there. It's kind of cool. So let's see. Well, let's get started. This next portion, we have a panel here of people that were here at the beginning of Ventures, and it is interesting to, like I say, to see where we're at 10 years later. And I was actually, I think I was the Economic Development Director, the flavor of that year back when this started. And I remember us meeting in, behind the college there. And so anyway, okay. So Ventures, I was talking to Darrell a little bit here about when it first began, and he was going back in his memory banks and thinking for him, might have been around 2002, it was discussed. And then the community were invited to participate in putting a proposal together to show how, if Northwest Area Foundation were to award funding to the Lummi Nation, how that money would be spent. And so there was an 18-month investigation or research project within the nation to decide, what do we need? And there was a lot of effort put in, door-to-door surveys. It was really a grassroots, and I believe that's when the Ventures Board was started, and it was a group of community members that weren't necessarily politically. They were trying to separate, I believe, the LIBC with the people, and so to get good representation for the whole nation, and so. There was an 18-month, like I say, just a gathering of the people and going around and interviewing everybody. And they came up with, let's see here, 5 areas that needed to be looked at. Economic development, education, strengthening families, land, and I believe that land would have meant acquire and then also putting it into trust. Which was part of this. I know when I was Economic Development Director, we were looking at land out Slater to possibly buy, and then a couple years later, when Ventures came along, this property made sense for the tribe to buy. So it all worked out. And then wellness and culture. So with that, I want to introduce the panel we have here. We have Darrell, Hillaire. And were you chairman at that time, Darrell? Okay, so Darrell was chairman. Shasta Cano-Martin. Did I pronounce that right? Because I was trying to Robbie Cano or Shasta. I didn't know if I was gonna do that right or not because of the Cano. So and then we have is Clarrisa Young? Is she here? Oh, you're okay. We've substituted Clarrisa with Rita Jefferson. And Gloria Point, who was, I believe, our first Ventures director, okay, and then Sharlaine Washington. Did I pronounce that right? Gloria told me that she gets corrected whenever she pronounces it wrong in the past, so I didn't want to get corrected. So with that, we're just it's kind of an open discussion of where we started, and these are the brainstorms that were involved, and I'm also going to, because I see a lot of faces that were involved as well, and so we're going to start here, but we're going to get to a point where we'd love to hear from other people that were there also. So a lot of faces that were truly involved. With that, we have the mic here. Okay, the mic is on, and don't talk like this because you won't be able to hear you. So I learned that just a second ago. So I'm just gonna, who would like to begin and share? Darrell, you've been appointed to kick us off, so here you go. No, you can, we talked about that. It's up to you. Would you guys like to come up here and talk, or do you want to sit in your chair?
I think you should sit.
Okay, to start off, go ahead and come up here. Yeah.
Much better when you can stand before your people. That Uncle Jack's sister told me that. My aunt. So I've been asked to come forward and share some history of ventures. I think we're sharing in the fruits of that labor here, this place, the reclaiming of this village. I don't think that was an intended consequence of our actions, but it is, and I think we need to celebrate that. And I think we need to celebrate all of those great visions that we've had as a nation. Back in the 60s, they built the Lummi aquaculture, and the fruits of that labor are a 4-year university. And we need to give thanks and homage to those elders that have passed on, that were able to have vision and the courage to carry forward a vision to have a better life for our people. Much like we're thinking about ventures and those things that were thought about in the very beginning. That opportunity was presented to Lummi at some hotel in Washington. They all look the same. But the fellow by the name of Andrew Lee, he was part of the Harvard project and was promoting this whole idea of self-governance at a level that's not necessarily government to government, but what are those things that tribes can do for themselves that create self-sufficiency? Andrew Lee and another fellow by the name of Richard Trudell both approached me, Andrew at a symposium in Washington, and then Richard Trudell at NCAI. What if somebody gave you $10 million to help you begin to solve poverty in your community? What would you do? Would you welcome that opportunity? Do you think that that'd be a worthwhile endeavor? Of course, yeah, sure, yes. So they introduced me to the Northwest Area Foundation, and the Northwest Area Foundation was trying to break the mold for how foundations do the work. Typically, foundations, they decide that they're going to do a program. The program's built over a calendar year. They get the money out, and then their work's done. And Northwest Area Foundation was trying to break new ground and say, well, we need to have a long-term relationship with people. And the Northwest Area Foundation recognized that Indian tribes are very much a part of their legacy, because the Northwest Area Foundation was built on money from the railroad. And we know what railroads did to Indian country. So maybe they had some motivation to make things that were done wrongly in the past to make them right. We don't know what that is, but it's in their DNA. So we got invited, along with a number of other tribes. There was a competition. We were in the competition with Quinault, and so we said, no way in the hell we're going to lose to Quinault. But the trick is that you had to show that you had this overwhelming need to solve some problems related to poverty. And at that time, we were in the middle of formulating this idea that we need to get well. We had the CMAT initiative that was going, and they had heard about it. That's where Andrew Lee heard about this, is that, well, what's going on at Lummi? And what was going on is we were talking about it. And then we also had gone through some real down fishing years, and they also knew about that. They also knew that we closed a casino. So we look back on our short history there, there's some pretty dark times then. And Andrew and Richard and those folks that live and work at that national level connected us with the Northwest Area Foundation, and they came out. And the trick is to show that you had this need, but they also had some assets. They had the tools to address those needs. All you need is some money to actually put all of it together, put a game plan together that's integrative, that's going to be able to transform what we're doing. And that's where the Northwest Area Foundation felt that they could help. So what were those assets? And I think what separated us from Quinault and some of the other tribes that we were competing with is that we have a college. And that's kind of like the first thing they said to us at that time when they said, I think we're going to go with Lummi. We had a 2-year university at that time. And they think that there's a great opportunity to work our way out of poverty if we could figure out how the educational opportunities for every living Lummi can be recognized and fulfilled. So that was one thing. And the other thing is that we were leaders in self-governance, and which means that we have this ability to develop policy that creates awareness of and support for us doing things ourselves. So that was a belief. That's a belief they've seen in us. So we need to continue that, you know. And then the third thing that they really liked is that we were able to pull ourselves together, just like now. We have this ability at Lummi just to pull ourselves together for the work. And I like that. I like that about how the next generation knows how to do that. And back then, when we were pulling ourselves together, I think we need to give credit to 2 people. Cheryl Crazybull was the president then, and attended all of those formative meetings that lead into the work of the folks here. She made it happen from her institute, and then Larry Kinley, who was the general manager then, and made sure that everybody was there, and everybody was on time, and everything was organized, and got us together so we could present ourselves with our dire need, but also we have the grit, and we have the assets, and we have this ability to plan. And they did a very good job. And so we went in and we were successful, and hopefully we're going to continue that success. I'd like to hear how far we've come from that time, because then we all moved on and the rest of the folks picked it up. And, you know, I think we need to pick ourselves up again and see where we're going for the next, 15 years or so, you know. So, but that's just kind of like my, my short little snapshot of that's what 2002 looked like. And I think that process took a couple of years. And it's funny how you think about some of these things, because we can't do this, I think. We think of like grants that's going to solve all our problems. But I think we just have to think about it's going to make our journey better, because the journey's full of a lot of different human experiences. And we weave all of those experiences together, and with these people that want to come to help us, and they do help us, that they've made our life and our journey just a little bit better. And I think we need to recognize that. I think that's what the foundation did for us, and I hope we can say that to them in some way. I don't know if they're here, but that's what I would say to them. This woman, oh, thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay? That's all I got. Thanks.
So then would you all like to come up here, or would you want to just pass the mic around and tell a little bit of background and your story and how you were involved and kind of the success that you've seen and participated in?
So thank you. For those who don't know me, my name is Shasta Cano-Martin. I come from the Quina Lewis family. My grandfather was the late Chief Sahumkin Donald Lewis. My grandmother was the late Hazel Jefferson. My mom is Debbie Lewis Miranda, and my stepdad is John Miranda. And I was one of the first interns that worked for the Lummi Ventures program when it came to the nation. And just being here today is making me reflect a lot on that work. When I first started getting into community, I was always reminded to tell who I am and where I'm from and what family I come from, so I felt it was appropriate to introduce myself that way. Just reflecting on it, we had a chance to meet with several of the community and be able to get close with a lot of our elders and how important that value is to us in Lummi. And there are a lot of elders that were a part of that original work that I think should be recognized. Jack, Uncle Jack, Bev, Auntie Juanita. I'm trying to think who else was involved. But really reminding us who we are, where we come from. And like Darrell said, this wasn't just a grant. It was really keying in on what does prosperity mean to us, what does poverty mean to us, and how do we want to build ourselves up. And like I mentioned before, we came up with the definition of poverty through the community, and it was when one, some, or all of Lummi values are missing to make a fully functioning individual, family, or community. And so being driven by those values in this work on building up economic development and putting it in our own terms. So part of the work was, while Northwest Area Foundation used to have competitive grants, they chose 3 tribes for this work to work together and learn from each other and build. And that was the Cheyenne River Sioux and the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. So we've, over the years, have done site visits at each of those communities. And I remember one time we were hosting at Lummi, and one of the medicine men of Cheyenne River Sioux said that he had a dream or a meditation that morning that the people came to him and said that the answer to Lummi's problems lies with their dream keepers. And we kind of took that in of, well, who are our dream keepers? And we started asking our elders who are the dream keepers of Lummi? And they said, you're artists. And that was really what spurred me to get involved with helping create the Lummi Cultural Arts Association. I was just there as a technical support, but the founder was Clarrisa Young and Michael Thomas and Joanne Hall, and there's a few others that I might be missing, but just a core group of artists that gathered. And I went to those meetings and I kept telling myself, I'm not an artist, I'm just here to help. And the elders were like, yes, you are. And you can sit with us until you realize that you're an artist. And they were the ones that encouraged me to continue writing poetry and songs. I came up with one of my first a cappella songs that I wrote through this program. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to share one of the poems that I wrote, the first poem that kind of came from this work of ventures. Just a disclaimer as well, it has a curse word. So I apologize for that. My kids got mad at me the last time I performed it, and they said, "Mom, it has a curse word. You should have warned people." So I'm doing that right now. Okay. Refuse to get captured and sucked into the cycle of poverty, homelessness, addiction, unemployment. No, not me. Deep inside me, there's an inner feeling of self-worth, encapsulated and created from the memories or manifestations of Mother Earth. My ancestors died with the hope that one day there would be me to educate and help end poverty. My community is telling me, no, not you, you're not the one. They say it won't happen, it can never be done. I yell and scream out, it's worth it to try. We owe it to our ancestors and all those that died from the ills of this sick disease, the disease of our mind. It has to be ceased, because essentially I am you and you are me. As a collective society, we create the traumas to be. The traumas that occur all over the world, a world where little boys and little girls don't feel safe to walk the streets. It is your mind and my mind where these demons meet, tormented by collective fears of everyone. A girl killed by her parents because she wasn't a son. People ostracized because they have a disease called AIDS. All the wars, all the fights, all the raids. People dying from hunger or from heat without shade or water, the necessity of life. So easily I could have ended it with the stroke of a knife. But if I were to end it, they would have won. With statistics that keep us in the hole that we're in, poor, minority, single home, well, what more could they have been? Entrenched upon us as a curse or a spell. A young parent, oh no, you won't do well. But I refuse to be subjected to your own feelings of self-hate. I'd walk miles to get to school and miles to get to work. I put up with this bullshit and all of life's little quirks. Despite what you think, I'm not lazy or dumb. I'm an educated sister and I don't drink rum, or any alcoholic beverage for that matter. I'll make something of myself, but not on a corporate ladder. I'll educate my people with the notion that at least I tried. I owed it to my ancestors and all those that died. Just in the community work that I've been involved with, one of the big things is that even today I kind of refuse to let myself be an artist, or I feel like there's more important work to do. I need to do all the business side of it, but this work and just being here today reminds me that that is a special part of who I am and part of my growth. So thank you for allowing me to share my poem. I really appreciate that. And I also am thinking about the mentors that we had on our tribal council that helped in this work, the core team. I just feel like it's important to recognize them. The late Jimmy Wilson, Tim Blue, Eldon Hillaire, and Perry Adams. They really met sometimes weekly to remind us of getting in the community. We did focus groups to not only define what prosperity and poverty looks like, but to really get at the core values of what we hold in Lummi Nation. And as I said before, this building is a testament to that vision. They wanted a place for artists and for a fresh seafood market, and we have it today. And now this is kind of the stepping stone to build upon that vision that we had over 11 years ago. So, Haishka, thank you.
Thank you, Shasta. You know, it's exciting to hear the different perspectives, because just like all of us, we all have a story, and it's great to see that the Lummis can come together and get something done, and the Quinaults, we're still fighting, but I'm sure you still have your little drag down knockouts, I'm sure, once in a while. So, so next, Gloria Point. So Gloria, I believe, was our first director, is that correct?
That's right.
So, all right.
Thanks, Rex. And thank you, Darrell and Shasta. Shasta reminded me that I have to tell everybody where I'm from. I'm Canadian. I grew up with my grandparents in Chehalis. My grandfather was Ambrose Point from Musqueam. My grandmother was Alice Leon from Chehalis. My biological father was Bernard Point, and my biological mother was in Lacapna from interior of BC. Her name was Bernice Blaine. I'm here. I do have an Indian name, but it was given to me by the Blackfeet tribe. It's Natoeokiaki, which means holy water woman. So I have to behave myself all the time to honor the name. Shasta was reminding me when we were out in the foyer that it was 11 years ago that this all began for us. Darrell and his crew began it earlier than we did, but I received a call to participate in this program, competed, won the job. And the 5 executive members that Shasta mentioned, including Darrell, Perry, Eldon, Tim Ballou Sr., and our late Jimmy Wilson. And they said, well, we need you to pull together this plan, and you've got 6 months. And it was like, what? And then actually we started talking about it. We had Kurt Rousseau, who was very instrumental in moving us along in this whole process, and the ops team, which included Lenny Dixon and David Bunton. I can't remember all of the team members. Justin Finkbonner was a part of that. Teresa Butler. It was just a whole big crew of people that we all sort of sat together and talked about what we were going to do with benchers. And it began with a survey. We had to talk to the community, but we had to do it in tiers. We started with the council level. We went down to the program people. Then we went out into the community and started having this conversation about poverty. And that conversation, when I talk about the community, that not only included going door to door and to different events, but we went to under the bridges and behind Fred Meyer's, and we talked to the people, homeless Lummis, and collected their definition of poverty. We did all of that, collected that, and then we went into focus groups and we're refining what they had talked about. We brought them all in, and we'd have anywhere from 200 to 400 people in a meeting room, broke it into strategic teams. That was a lot of fun. Had cultural involved. Our elders were very, very instrumental in guiding our teams throughout, trying to keep us on track in remembering who we were and why we were there. We talked about it being 18 months. It felt like it was about 5 years. It was really a passionate, painful process when you start talking about what poverty is. And I remember when the whole group came up with the definition of poverty. And the room was so impassioned. I remember the energy that was in the room, and we were almost all in tears when we finally agreed that when one, some, or all Lummi values are missing that make a fully functioning individual, family, or community. It had nothing to do with dollars and cents. And it impacted education, it impacted health, economic development, culture, languages, all of the different areas that we looked at. We were guided all along this conversation by the Northwest Area Foundation. Tony Genia was just as passionate as we were in this conversation and developing this plan. All the way through the conversation, one of the things that was happening that was not spoken out loud was that we were teaching the community how to plan. And that all by itself was huge. It was really huge. They were angry with us at first. They were really angry. How dare you come and talk to us about poverty? Who the heck do you think you are? And then they started recognizing where it was for them. It wasn't for me to it wasn't me telling them that they were in poverty. It was, what does it mean? And when they defined it, then they started owning it. And all the way through this conversation, they were told that they were the ones that had to implement it, that Lummi had to implement this, and that when we developed positions for this organization, it was Lummis that were going to do it. And there was a plan to move those of us who were not Lummi, us Canadians who were doing processes. They made a big joke out of this. And we tried to do that and ultimately did. And I have to say, couldn't be more proud of the people that I worked with. We had such a huge, strong, intelligent group of people working on the team and in the community. Like I kept telling anyone who would listen, gosh, you've got brain power here. Let's capture it. Let's guide it. And we had Shasta, we had Rita, we had Sharlaine, Carmen Bland, Lena So, Tim Jr., he's now chairman. There was just a lot of people, and I knew that there was a way. There was a way. The path was wide open to them, and Ventures was one of the ways of doing this. And it was an awesome program, still is, and all of the work that has been done is just amazing. Like Darrell pointed out, standing here, there was 11 different sites that were looked at. And I don't know how we all ended up. I ended up leaving before this was built. So, but it was a real honor to be a part of this conversation. Honor to be included in the Lummi family. Even though when I first started, Lena said that I was a wannabe and I couldn't be Lummi. Everybody else opened their arms to me. I appreciate this opportunity, and I hand this off to Rita. Thank
you. Next is Rita, and it's interesting, as listening to people and reflecting where you are, even all of us at any age you're at, and the effect and the work that you're doing right now. Rita was our executive director for CDFI, and you look, years down the road, now she's the treasurer of the tribe. Is that right? No, you're on. Oh, okay, but it's just interesting how all of us, and even the youth, to where you don't know where your journey's taking you. You really don't, and to really embrace the moment where you're at, learn what you can, as Darrell, or as I think Henry was mentioning earlier, learn something new every day. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Rita to where she was our first, I don't think you were our first executive director, were you? For CFI? Okay. See, the memory goes too, so enjoy it while you have it.
My Indian name is Yetiatowit. My name is Rita Jefferson, and I'm a current council member for the Lummi Indian Business Council. Let's see. I guess my part of the journey for the Lummi Ventures, I think it's really important to honor and acknowledge the journey, the roots of Ventures program. There was so many elders that aren't here now where it caused conversations to happen about historic trauma. And it's almost like Pandora's box. We opened up all these hurts and traumas that weren't talked about for a long time because it was so painful. And it was the vision of our current elders, and the elders aren't here, that they wanted to see healing from the transgenerational trauma that happened to our people. And they wanted, I don't think we thought in the framework of poverty because we didn't think of ourselves as being poor because we were so rich in family values. And there was large group meetings where we broke out into groups, and there's many of us here today that help facilitate those conversations on values, where there was tears shed, the pain shared of what they went through yesterday and at that time. And they really wanted the well-being for our people and the opportunity. And I still carry that in my heart, and I know Gloria, as the first director, Ventures is really about being an agent of change. And so I think she still carries her scars today, and it's made her a stronger woman. But I'm just very appreciative to Gloria for helping to forge that path forward. And then also, Gloria was the initiator, and then Kathy Pierre took over once the plan was approved. And then, who else? Oh, Clayton Finkbonner, who is no longer with us, was a very integral part of this building that we're sitting here today. As I did my research throughout my jobs, I found he was very innovative, and beyond the years that he was working in, he had so many ideas. Like, we never have a new idea. It was always thought of way back here many times. And so I guess as we continue forward, the small business owners, entrepreneurs, it's not an easy path that you start on. You think, I'm going to be my own boss. But all the hours that you put into it, it's a lot of work. And I can see the smiles that understand that. But it's a destiny that you have and a passion that you have that you can contribute to. The government doesn't have to provide all the jobs. With the government, there's limitations. We all make mistakes, and some of the background checks limit us from progressing forward and contributing what we can to our people. And so small business is very vital to building our economy. And I just want to thank everybody that was involved that's here and not here today for sharing their hurts and pains and wanting wellness for our people and prosperity. And I hope you guys continue to be a part of this. And I also want to thank Darrell, because I always see him as like a Fortune 500 company executive. He's always thinking way out there, things that are foreign to many of us, and it takes a little while for us to catch on what he's trying to lead us to. And so just thank you, Darrell, for everything that you do. And Haishka for y'all being here.
Thank you, Rita. And Sharlaine, do you mind least, or the last but not the least, that's for sure. And then we'll open it up, have open mic, and you guys can ask questions for any of the panel members. So.
Naut siam, Nasjalacha siam, Haishka siam ta ana atla atia kaias. Spakia Sanasnat, Soyitsano Helik, Atiakaias, Haishka Siem. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. My name is Spakia. I'm Sharlaine Washington. My father is Wilbert LeClaire, and my mom is Karen James. Her maiden name is Cook. So I also I'm from Lummi, but I'm also from Nooksack through my mother's side. My grandmother was Helen Lane LeClaire and the late Smokey LeClaire. I'm really grateful to see how many people came today, and want to thank all the speakers before me who were able to share some of the story of the journey that we've been on with Lummi Ventures. I can't believe it's already been more than 10 years. As I'm a young woman, but I say it feels like it's been a long time, like a long time ago, 10 years ago. It goes by so fast. I got involved with Lummi Ventures in transition from working with the Lummi Cedar Project. And Shasta and I were very fortunate when we were growing up to have had the Lummi Cedar Project wrap their arms around us as young people and help teach us leadership skills, and helped us to have the opportunity to share our voice with the community and learning about positive ways of contributing towards a healthy community. So when I was ready to transition from doing youth work, and I was serving as the program director for the Lummi Cedar Project, and I decided I wanted to move on to do more work on behalf of the community and reach a broader segment. I was fortunate to have come to work with the Lummi Ventures program as an intern. And so I kind of came when Lummi Ventures was kind of midway through their planning progress and planning process. And that was quite the journey within itself of being immersed into this process where, like Rita said, it opened this whole conversation around the root causes of poverty, which opened up a lot of conversations around historical traumas and pains in the community. And like Darrell said, we have a really strong ability to pull together to do things, but we have also been impacted largely by historical trauma. And during some of the meetings, I did see some of the effects of that, people arguing, yelling at each other, almost getting in drop down, step outside fights with each other over disagreeing over things. But I also seen those same people come back to the table and give each other a hug or a handshake and continue to work together in a good way. So that was really interesting and a little bit scary as a really young woman. I'll just be honest. It's like, wow, this is what we're stepping into. But nevertheless, the people kept coming to the table and, being willing to work together to find solutions. And some of the people that I want to recognize for being there often, of ones that weren't mentioned so far, were the late Richard Hillaire. He was there with us a lot, in addition to, Uncle Jack and Clarrisa Young and Auntie Beverly. There are a lot of elders that were very, very committed and stayed with us throughout this entire journey of Ventures. They're such a good example to us as younger people and to the rest of the community. Our elders show up first. They're there early and on time and ready to go and to share their stories, and they've sacrificed a lot to help us to where we are today. And so they gave a lot of strength to us in guiding us. My role, like I said, I got to serve as an intern, and it was really great to see the commitment to the planning process of different tools of reaching out to the community in every possible way you could think of, interviews, knocking on people's doors. I had to share another funny story about that. A lot of you might know Kurt Russo. He's worked with the tribe for a long time, and he's a white guy. And he would go door knocking with us. And sometimes, you know, people see a white guy, they don't want to answer the door. They shut their blinds and, you know, go and hide because they're like, you know, who is this showing up to our door? And so I like to tease him about that because he has his scars and his wounds that he went through and being committed to the community. But I just think that was really important of listening to our community and all the hurts and pains that they've had, but also the dreams and visions. Later on, I moved into a different role of serving as the executive director for the Lummi Nation Service Organization. And we were selected as the organization to oversee the implementation of ventures. The reason why our council selected for LNSO to do that is because as a 501c3, we have the ability to leverage other funds. We, in the process of being awarded our Northwest Area Foundation grant, we were awarded $6 million over a period of 10 years to address 3 different strategies. Our community asked for 10. There were 10 different areas our community wanted. The 3 that were funded were families, economic development, and education. The others that were not funded but are equally important to our community are land, culture. We were funded a little bit towards homelessness. We really have a lot of work to do still. So I think that in selecting LNSO as the implementation vehicle and working together, Lummi Nation, like Darrell said, does an awesome job of pulling together to try to make things happen. The Ventures grant, like I said, was $6 million. It had a 1-to-1 matching requirement. We exceeded that. We've accessed over $15 million to help this vision of everything that Ventures wanted to come true. So Lummi Nation did a really awesome job in leveraging additional resources to answer the call to the community of this big responsibility of the vision that the community had shared with us. It wasn't an easy job, and it's not something that any one of us involved in the process took lightly. Like I said, it's a big responsibility when the community shares a vision with you, and to accept that responsibility for seeing that forward and going about it in a good way. I think that a lot of people along the way were really instrumental in that. I want to touch on a few of the gifts that the Ventures grant has been able to share with the Lummi community that we've worked really hard to develop. Some of those include development of the Lummi Community Development Financial Institution, LCDFI, and the Revolving Loan Fund, providing opportunities for entrepreneurs to access capital to start up or expand their small businesses. That's something that was an ask through the Ventures program and was going on even before Ventures. I remember meeting with Henry Kagi and Rex and Evan Morse up at the LDA when they used to be down at Gooseberry Point, and the conversations around starting a revolving loan fund. So through Ventures, we were able to take that work. Henry passed it over to us, and Rita and I went down to their offices, and we us and our board members jumped in and helped develop that, and now it's really thriving and has strong leadership and a strong board. I raise my hands to Laura, Rex, Rita, and others and Eldon Hillaire, who have continued to make that a success, and so it can be continue to be offered in our community. It's been a real gift. The other thing is, like this building here, the Small Business Incubator is another important gift that we're going to continue on into the future. We also have partners in the room from Northwest Indian College who have implemented, in partnership with the Ventures, financial literacy, helping community members learn about family and individual budgeting and financial awareness. I also I want to thank Rita again for continuing that work with leadership and providing education to our council. I think that, it's important for families to learn it, but it's also important for us as an organization and as leaders to be practicing some of those things that so we can reinforce them in the community. Another one was education. We had a future search conference to engage the community and setting some goals around lifelong learning. There was a curriculum developed for reducing racism. The curriculum is called Promoting Unity. We engaged with Heather Jefferson. She helped us to work with some of the local school districts to develop a curriculum that is now available and can be used. The Ventures program also worked closely with TANF and the Employment and Training Center to develop a teen daycare so that teen parents can have the opportunity to graduate from high school. I'm not sure if, helping with the Lummi Cultural Artists Association, the artists have been another, in addition to our elders, the artists have been another really strong asset to our community. I'm very thankful for their commitment to helping us to see these opportunities through. They've done some really awesome work going over to our traditional territories to host art shows and art festivals, which has helped us to reclaim our presence in our traditional ceded territories and helping people understand over there who we are and that we come from there. And also within ourselves as Lummi people, remembering who we are and where we come from. And being able to go over there was a really powerful experience for a lot of our artists. One of the first times they held the art festival, in a week-long period, the artists were able to make over $40,000 in sales. That was amazing. And I hope that those kind of opportunities continue to be available because that's a really big impact to tribal artists and their families. There's a lot that we've done. I'm sure that I'm leaving some things out, and I don't mean to. And if I forgot to thank anybody, that's very unintentional as well. We had hundreds and hundreds of people that came and were involved in helping us to do this. One of the things that was in the Venture Strategic Plan, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of work to be done. We couldn't do everything in 10 years with $6 million and a few staff. We wish that we could do everything, but we just couldn't. But we are committed to keeping the dream alive. One of the things that we've struggled with is the market around the, seafood products. And there's a big missing piece there that we need to continue those conversations to build the infrastructure so that our fishermen and fishing families can get a better price for their products. Those men and women work really hard out there, and we wanted to address that within the Venture Strategic Plan. I think that those conversations need to continue in the community as an effort, like I said, to keep that dream alive. I think that there's a lot more work to be done in that area, and I hope that we can commit to continuing to do that. This work is going to continue. A lot of the work around asset building and helping small businesses and entrepreneurs is going to live on through the Lummi CDFI as a strong institution in our community to continue some of this work. I'm really thankful for being able to participate in this process because it's helped me develop as a professional and as a community servant. I serve on the Lummi Planning Commission, and we were just talking last night, and my passion started coming through very strongly about engaging with the community when we're planning. It's helped shift my beliefs about how we approach planning with the community. Our community plan is going to expire at the end of the year, and we were talking about how do we update our community plan, and we were looking at a survey, and I was like, you guys know survey's not enough. You can't ask questions to the survey once and it's done. It's one good method. It is a good method to getting a lot of people involved, but when we went through such a an intense process to go out and listen to the community, listen to the people, take the people, what they're saying in their dreams and their visions, and implement it. I think that we've learned a lot through that process, and I really hope that the process that we went through and everything that we've learned from it, that we use what we've learned to do better for our people and for our future. I was really glad to hear Henry Kage say, remembering we're survivors of the flood, and we have a different flood coming now. Like he said, the flood is, poverty, homelessness, addictions, all of those things, and we need to put our children in those canoes, and we need to put all of our, what's important, listen to the people, what's important to put in that canoe so that our children and their children and their children and their children can continue to survive into the future. And just really thankful for Henry sharing that, because I really believe that our ways of knowing should be how we translate these current issues that we have going on to help us carry forward into the future in a good way. Like I said, we haven't been able to do everything with ventures. We tried really hard to do a lot of really great things, but there's a lot of good work that still needs to be done. So that's all I'll share for now. And Shasta.
I hate to be the one to stop that passionate presentation, but I was getting in my ear, I was getting hey, it's time to go, and then, so thank you, Sharlaine, appreciate it. Let's see, do we have time for 2 questions, or did we nix that? No? Okay, I have to respect Juanita, so Juanita, you might be the only question, so fit a few in there.
I'm going to take an elder's privilege, and that is just to tell you thank you, because I will say this, for the first time, I have felt a total room full of sharing of passion. I just feel the passion is all here in everybody's heart today, and it is so, it's just so life-giving. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Each and every one of you who spoke have brought hundreds of memories back for a lot of us. So I just want to say thank you for that. I'm going to jump out of the box and say, and now, let's not be afraid to let the healing from historic trauma take hold. Let it take hold, because the opposite of poverty is wealth. Our tribe is so wealthy, it's unbelievable. Beware of the dumbing down of America process. No more dumbing down of America here at Lummi, because we're too smart for that. We know damn well we're wealthy. We don't have to be told poverty, poverty, poverty. Poverty is scarcity. If you're scarce from belief, from love, from trust, from sharing, then yes, you're in poverty. If you have trust and love for your people and sharing, you are wealthy. That's who Lummi is. We will not give in to this damn dumbing down of America crap. All right? I'm outside the box, and it feels great.
Are you saying get rid of our cell phones? Is that what you're saying? And get rid of the video games? That's what I heard. No. Okay, moving right along. So our next speaker, keynote entrepreneurial speaker, is Louis Gong. And I haven't had the privilege of meeting Louis before this time, so I'm really looking forward to hearing his story. Sounds like a fascinating individual. So, and maybe during a lunch hour we can have some stories. I'm gonna fit it in somewhere where we can hear more from the community, because this was such a blessing to hear the results of where this came from, and I think it's really important to hear those stories and to see what this is transferred into, and because that's what it's all about. So with that,